everybody, and welcome to DAWG DAZE. And welcome to the Dog House. I'm your hostess with the mostest, HollyB, and today I have a very special guest hailing from Canada, where it's very cold right now, Dr. Alia Offman. And she is hailing in from Ontario, Canada, and we had a brief little chat here before we started. Really good, fun times, interesting topic. I can't wait to get started. How are you today, doctor?
I'm super excited to be here and talk to you about this stuff. You know, I've got a career, gosh, I'm 51 now. I started, in university when I was 18, like a really long career with a lot of different things. And I feel like where I am right now is bringing all of those passions together, even like a lifelong spiritual path. So it's really super cool for me to be, I'm a registered psychologist. I practice, as you said, I'm in a small town called Perth, right outside of the nation's capital of Ottawa. But because everything's virtual, I can really serve clinically the whole province. And so, here I am. I've got a PhD in experimental psychology, 20 years in training, working with trauma, lots of veterans that I work with. And to be able to be in this time and place where we're seeing things like the world of psychedelic cannabis. I come from a mindfulness background for the last 12 years. So I get to bring like this spiritual background I've had my whole life, this training, the psychedelic work, the mindfulness work. It's all coming together in this really great space. And what's most beautiful about this is that, I don't know if you remember how we ended up on this train, is I went to a society, no, not the Society of Cannabis Clinicians, the Chamber of Commerce, the Women's Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, these people are building community. And like everywhere I turn, people are building community. And that is like such a mind switch from where I started my career 20 years ago. And I used to be like, what goes on with psychologists? Like we're in this like department. Did they like beat us in the corner? Because like there's all this like friction and tension. And I feel like we're in this place in the world right now where things like these podcasts where people are like, hey, I've got this capacity to help bring someone along, and you do it. Like, this is just an exciting time. And the spirituality part comes in because like, this is all about plant molecules, right? So, and that really says like these plant molecules have been around for tens of thousands of years. I joke, I have a side project called the Space Dinos. And it all came from this ridiculous conversation with my partner about how cannabis existed back at the time of the dinosaurs. So I said, well, the dinosaurs didn't die, they evolved. And all the ones that ate cannabis are just out in space, like as these highly evolved beings. So it's a great time. And, we talked a little bit about mushrooms, like we know that mycelium connects all of us and stuff. So, I mean, there's all of these different ways that we can come into it, but clinically here in Ontario, like if you want to talk about veterans and access to cannabis, like it's so wonderful and easy here for me because so right now everybody's talking, we've got psilocybin and MDMA and DMT and LSD and all of these things, and they're going through all this regulatory stuff. Ketamine is in a bit of a gray area here in Canada. If you can, I worked with ketamine because I had a doctor that would work with me, but cannabis, the way the system is set up here, I can literally have my clients come in, and I can send them, I give them a little pamphlet. I say, here, go talk to these doctors. These doctors give them the prescription. They review their medical. They say, okay, like, yeah, this person can tolerate the THC. And then I also always sneak in CBD at the same time. I'm like, if you're going to go for one, yeah, that one's the one we're going to use in therapy in session. But if you can get a doctor in CBD, this is going to help with your pain, your anxiety, all the contributing things. So I can practice legally and ethically with cannabis here in Ontario. And because I'm fortunate that my partner, it's funny because he's just below me we have a consumption space in my house where we bring people in. So I do community work on one side and clinical on the other. So he's the one that helps me, gives me direction so that I make sure that people, when they are consuming, they're like small, like high quality. We're not looking at we want to make sure that if we're inviting this molecule into our body to do the work, it's healthy. So it's really exciting work. And while everybody's kind of talking about mushrooms and talking about all this stuff, I'm like, hey, what about our humble plant here, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
she does the work that they do in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what if you're on a bad trip, which most of my clients don't have, because we do, so much preparatory work in mindfulness beforehand,
Mm.
even if something is challenging for that hour, it's an hour. And so everybody's like running after all of these huge molecules that they want to bring in. And don't get me wrong, they're amazing and they're fantastic and they are doing their work. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of sitting here going, hey guys, like, don't you know we already have something that like works effectively at starting to drop these layers of the egos that
Mm.
I really like. There's Robin Carhart Harris, who is one of the leaders in psilocybin work. He's out of UK, and
Mm-hmm.
he talks about the theory of entropy, and that is that when we put psychedelics into our system, we're going from this highly rigid, very organized, individual, which we see so linked to PTSD, and then we're allowing the brain to begin to communicate in a new way.
Mm.
And so as it goes into entropy, I was always trained that entropy was about chaos.
Mm-hmm.
But now really it's about like letting things fall into the natural flow. And as a trauma informed therapist, when I can help a client go from that state of like rigid anxiety, perfectionism, people pleasing, all of those things, into this sense of like fluidity and connection and trust in self, like, yeah, that's work that, takes you from feeling like helpless and incapacitated to hopefully hopeful and functioning.
Holy cow, you are so speaking my language. Have we met before in another life or something?
Probably,
You just
probably.
described me to a T. So I love the saying that you have on your website
Yeah.
here. Oh my goodness, because it speaks to me. The feel
Feel
it,
it, don't
don't
fear it.
fear
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I find coming from that rigid space that, trying these cannabis and psychedelics and stuff like that, it's almost like I want to overthink it.
yes.
Uh, and the whole mindfulness, and I almost need to become jelly before, or relaxed or in a state, and it just makes sense. What you're talking about is the whole prepping, like before you go into the
Yeah,
actual plant therapy. I love that. That
yeah.
sounds so responsible.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that I'm working on now at this moment. And from the very beginning of my career, it was always really important for me. Like I teach at Carleton University as well. And I was always like, if I'm going to teach, I want to know. I don't want to teach from theory. I want to teach from practice. So it was important that I went out. I started doing therapy. I started doing all this work. And it's the same thing with my psychedelics. Like, there are so many better neuroscientists out there. There are so many better researchers out there. There's so many amazing people out there to talk about what's going on. But what I noticed was really missing, and I have a teaching partner, Andrea Grababak. She's a psychiatrist in BC.
Mm,
And we've been talking about, because we train people in mindfulness, we said like, hey, you can go on all of these training courses for psychedelics that say, okay, well, what do you prep? Like, what's the setting? What's the mindset? What's the dosage? Like, how do we deal with it in session? And I'm like, hey, this isn't just about like dropping a molecule into somebody and then seeing what happens, because the molecule shows you the path, but
mhm.
you've got to ride the bike down that path or walk that path. And if we're not given the preparatory work for it, then it's kind of like, just we're hoping like hell we make it through. And some, like, mushrooms are strong enough, LSD are strong enough that it will overwhelm that. And if you
Yeah.
hang with it, you're going to get through. But what if we actually train people in advance that when
Mhm.
they had a bad trip, Because while I do believe there are bad trips, absolutely, I think the majority are people that are overwhelmed with what they're feeling and they can't process it. It's
Yes.
one of the things that I see, we see cannabis abuse young men specifically, where they are trying to escape from the rest of their life. They begin to abuse cannabis. And then what happens? Boom, now they have anxiety. Why? Because the cannabis is just releasing so much in their system that they can't process it. So I work from this premise of, intention, like in
Mm.
using so little of the plant with intention, guided with mindfulness. Now, you've got a beacon, you know where you're going. And when things begin to come up, like, I mean, I practice daily myself. I have a meditation practice daily. I also use cannabis daily as part of my practice. And
Mhm.
it's like every day I meet those things that are coming in front of me. And it's like, okay, well, here it is. And I'm going to
Mhm.
be present with it. And I'm going to feel the discomfort. And I'm not going to let this throw me off balance. And,
Mhm.
that's what I'm modeling with clients. And that's the training that my teaching partner and I were working on, is like, how do we now offer this to the therapists that want to work in this space so they actually know they're from their own, because we're all experiential first. If you haven't
Mhm.
gone through it, you're first. You can't. And especially with psychedelics, you can't sit in a
Yes.
room with somebody on psychedelics and not know what's going on internally. So
Mhm.
any practitioner that wants to work with somebody, we want to train them in mindfulness for
Mhm.
their personal, but as well, like, hey, this is what you can start to train in to do to prep your own clients for the work.
Beautiful. So you practice what you preach.
Hmm. Absolutely. There's no way that you can be authentic in this space and not. I mean,
Beautiful.
do I use acid? No. Do I go out and, use mushrooms? No, I don't. Like, I've used them, done them, but hey, everybody's got their own thing. But in terms of cannabis as a
Yes.
product, whether it be like topical to inhaled, CBD to THC, the plant speaks to me and it does things for me. So I want to make sure that, I know every part of it when I go to work with my clients.
Beautiful. So here I see mindfulness integrated cognitive behavioral therapy. That's a
Yes,
mouthful.
that's a mouthful. That's why we call it MICBT. Yep.
So this is what we're talking about, the integrating the mindfulness into the therapy and the plant medicine, and all working together in a wonderful partnership,
Yeah.
and they're complementing each other, huh?
100%. So I do mindfulness, MICBT. I do it without the cannabis for people that aren't interested in that. That
Yeah.
really is the foundation of my work. And then for those that want to bring the plant molecule in, because really I find, like, it's usually when I'm sitting there in front of my client, and I've been most of them working for a while, and I'm like, all right, you know what? We can keep chipping away at this week after week after week if you
Mhm.
want, or we can set up a cannabis session, and we can get this unstuck and begin to work with it. And so that's where we're really integrating the two of them together.
Okay, so the patients bring their medicine to you, with you.
Yep.
Okay, so it's their medicine that they get with
Yep.
their through their doctor or
Yeah.
whatever. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Which makes it all kind of kosher and above board here, right? Like,
Mhm.
if I would, it would be my hope in the future to work in a more integrated team so that we could be doing that in-house, so that I can make sure that everything goes smoothly. But like, here, the laws in Ontario, they're really wild. Like, I can talk to somebody about cannabis and therapy, but I can't tell them where to go to get it, how much to get it, or what to buy. But they can walk into a dispensary and the bud tender can tell them how much to buy and what to use, but they can't tell them that it's what to use it for. And so there's like, we need this in between person, which is like the medical doctor, which is why I would love to work in collaborative care, that can say, all right, we know this person is struggling with this because we've talked to the team, and this is what Alia wants for the next session. So we're going to prescribe this to them, and that's going to help. I mean, that's the future where I would really like to go, but
I
we're still
love that
working on that.
model.
Yep. Yep.
I absolutely love that model because everybody is so different and everybody has different triggers.
Yep.
And then also our bodies physiologically, I mean, we're different depending on your weight, because depending on if you're a woman or a man or that sort of thing. So, and then just being an individual, being. What works for me may not work for you or other people down the road, totally unique. I love that idea of being able to talk to your doctor, your bud tender, your therapist, your dietitian. Beautiful. I love that model for the future. I'm on board. So you guys have group therapy sessions that you offer as well?
Yeah. So
Very nice.
same model, kind of I shorten it for the group therapy. It's only 5 weeks. So same thing, we can do straight up mindfulness, or we can do the mindfulness with cannabis. And when I do the mindfulness with the cannabis, it's like 4 weeks of the mindfulness fundamentals. And then we do a day-long retreat.
Ooh.
And yeah, exactly. And that way people are coming in and they're mixing a day of mindfulness work, meditation, intention setting with the cannabis. And it's really nice to be able to do more than one kind of trip in a day, because the first time you're going in, you're getting your bearings, you're seeing how things are going. The second time, then you can really be in it. So it's nice to have a whole bunch of different balances. And then you won't see it here because ethically I really need to keep them separate, but my partner, I also do community work. So we invite people in groups in, the consumption space I have here. We do it at some dispensaries that have their own consumption space. And so we're bringing in music and mindfulness, and people are coming in intentionally using the cannabis. They're laying there, covered like on their yoga mat with their blanket and stuff. And they're having this group experience led by the music and the cannabis. And that's the community stuff where, I think like if we think about old school cannabis use, it was in the basement, people hanging out, like it's just a social plant. It doesn't want to be used alone, right? So group work is really sits well. And what I notice about the beauty of group work is you have some people that just come in and they're like shining. Their joy is coming out. And then you've got other people that are feeling anxious, overwhelmed, concerned. But when you bring all of that together in a room, you start to see how one energy holds the other one. And like, it's a great thing to see. It's just, it's really lovely.
That sounds so interesting because I would be the one that's all anxious. I would be like the quiet one sitting on my yoga mat, kind of clenching my blanket, looking at everybody, not really wanting to close my eyes because I don't know these people and I'm not trusting. So that would be an interesting exercise, actually. And then if someone's cool and they walk in and they're very self-confident and they're exuding that energy, and if I could tap into that in a group setting and kind of start feeling it and, having it to kind of calm me, and then I can start working on calming myself.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of would have to push myself into that kind of scenario and that kind of environment, but I can see the benefits.
Yeah. And that just sounds like just about every psychedelic adventure, It's this great blend of excitement and kind of trepidation. And if you've got good guides that have done the work, and I'm still doing the work, my partner's still doing the work, you do the work until you take your last breath, right?
Oh, wow.
But like if you've got people that have done the work, then they see that when you come in. And my partner and I often joke, like he's a total like fish head, deadhead. Like he's the guy, like, let's bring it on. Let's enjoy, let's have a good time. And I'm like, let's put an eye mask on and cry, right? Like, we've got these two different vibes, right, going on, so that we know how to hold the people in the space, right? To when they're coming in. And part of it is like, it's okay to be anxious.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. These are things that we tell ourselves that there's something wrong with it. And especially if we're looking at things like PTSD, often it's like this fear of like, well, I'm going to get into this and I'm not going to know how to get out of it. And it's like, I'm going to be locked in this on my own. And when you're traveling with a group of people, like, I mean, I've always been really, really careful around misappropriation of like indigenous cultures and stuff around their work. But I mean, if I look at indigenous cultures around the world, this isn't being done in a room by yourself. You've got elders that are bringing you in, that you're trusting, and the music is guiding you, and you're using the plant molecule in it. And I heard something really lovely, an interview with Ram Dass, I think it was, and he was talking about how nobody would leave the room until everybody had come to the morning, right? So that meant you couldn't leave, like not one member of the group could leave until the next day, like you'd come into the light. And I really do believe that this is where psychedelics are driving us. You see the most staunch researchers and scientists just really kind of breaking that vibe and saying, no, like, we need to do this in community, because I think that that's really it. Just one person's great energy helps to raise up somebody else's. And you don't have to show up perfect. We're all here to kind of help one another out.
Oh, I love that. I love that idea. I love that
Yep.
concept. No man left behind.
Exactly. Yes, you might know that one from different worlds, right?
Right, exactly. So what else we got here? You are on LinkedIn, and you do have a really nice website that we were looking at here. And I believe we've put your website address up there. So nice little therapy services here. What happens when I click on that? Okay, nice. Okay.
Shows you the breakdown.
Okay, cool. And then if someone is interested in getting a hold of you, we would fill out this request for service form.
Yeah. And people can also like it, because of, the world of being a registered psychologist, I can't work outside the province of Ontario. But I can. So this is where I always have to keep the lines really clean, right? So any of the training I do, any of the kind of the group work I can do outside of the province, and I'm always open to people that are interested in it, because I do want to cross to cross the government lines, but not the ethical lines. But I think there's lots of opportunities coming for people who want to begin to do this work, like with the mindfulness, with the cannabis, themselves, without me being their therapist. I think there's a lot of space for that as well. So I would love to hear, I'm one of my New Year's resolution. I don't usually have New Year's resolutions, but this year my New Year's resolution is to say yes to everything, but take on no new projects. And it's kind of sounds like they're antithetical to one another, but it's basically like, anytime somebody asks me to engage with them on something, if they've got an interest, I'm just going to say yes. And if it doesn't align with one of the projects I already start, then I'm going to say, hey, like, I can't do that. But I'm so interested and so curious to see, like, I want to know what people want. Like, not just what I want as a therapist and what I think is great, but like, what are people actually looking for?
I love that. And I'm kind of at the same place as you are. It's kind of like, okay, well, I really need to, I'm starting to spread myself kind of thin here. And I really want to focus on what's going to be most effective. And if it's not aligning with what my end goal is, I may have to start saying no. And that's a hard thing for me to do. That's a hard thing for me to do is say no to, new ideas and stuff like that. But if it's not aligning, I really, was starting to feel the crunch there and starting to feel even more anxiety. So self-care,
Yeah, and self-care, and that's like that's a whole other kind of great topic around cannabis, because we have these two models here in Ontario, which is we've got the medical side and we've got the recreational side, and I'd really like to pull it into the wellness side in the middle. Kind of like saying, like, this is how this can enhance your life. We can use it purely medical. We can use it like, cancer treatment, purely medical, right? And then we've got purely recreational, like it is fun to hang out and use cannabis on a Friday night and eat pizza and watch Bridgerton. That was my Friday night.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and it's great, right? But there needs to be that inside. And, one of the areas where I'm getting a good conversation going is around parents that use cannabis and parents that use edibles, and just the real stigma stigma around it for so many. But then those of us who are brave enough to say, and I'm brave, and I've got 4 kids between the ages of 10 and 17. We have open conversations about all of it. And, there are times where my use of cannabis opens myself up to my conversations with them. And,
Yeah.
we have no problem if I said to, to my kid, I'm just going to go have a beer and sit on the back deck. And, nobody's going to blink an eye at it. But I say, I'm going to go tell my kids I'm going to go smoke a joint on the back deck. And first like, oh gosh, watch out. And it's like, yeah, the risk to the developing adolescent brain in cannabis is a real thing. It scares me as a parent, but I also know that the majority of people that are misusing, whether it be pornography, drugs, alcohol, social media, we're seeing a trauma piece underneath it, and that is the children growing up in homes where there's a present, available, and appropriate parent. They're less likely to use these things. So we need to tease out the trauma from the misuse kind of misunderstanding around teens. And my first love was in human sexuality. I was a sex educator, and we knew abstinence doesn't work, but good, honest conversations with kids work. And that's the way I look at it with my children. They know why I use it. They know what it is. And then I don't have a fear of using with my kids and then having a really great conversation where my ego got put to the side. That rigid structure of mom's got to do this now gets put aside. And then here I am present with my kids. So, I mean, it really is something, as you kind of said earlier, like I practice what I preach, right? Like it is 360 in my life, use of the plant.
I love it. I could talk to you all day, Doctor. I'm so glad that we were able to touch base and get your website out there so people who are interested can get in touch with you and read up more about your cause and what you're doing out there. I love your vision for the future, that we all need to get on the same sheet of music and community and no man left behind. And your saying of don't fear it, feel it. So good. It's been a pleasure. Is there anything you'd like to leave the show with? Any announcements? Any
like definitely like find me on socials, whether it be LinkedIn. I just actually posted something today. If you're a clinician that's looking for that type of training in mindfulness to work with psychedelics, I actually just posted today, interested in some people answering some questions about what they would look to look for a program. If you're interested in community work, greeningthemind.ca, that's where we are for the community stuff. And then I think my website address was wrong. You can find me at self-balance.ca or Dr. Alia Offman.ca, either one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Doctor. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day. Until next time, stay safe out there, folks.